think it's working.
All right. Sorry for that. I did fail to put that on earlier. It's not my first time to fail to start YouTube. But it is my first time not to have somebody sitting right there next to me telling me to do something. All right. Anyway, if you feel like you want to say something, you can say something at the conclusion of the hearing. But I would say that all of this is being recorded on YouTube, on Zoom also, and your statements can be used against you later on. So let me finish the. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, Ms. Brandon, did you have anything else you wanted to say in support of your motion before we got interrupted there?
I think that's all I have just to start off. If Your Honor has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I know that the state also has concerns that they are hoping to address regarding scheduling as well. And I'm happy to answer any other questions you have regarding timelines and due dates and all those other things.
All right, Ms. Bahish, Al-Bahish, anything else from you?
Not at this time.
Okay, and I don't know if Ms. Palmer or Mr. Bragg or Ms. Tanner is going to speak for the state.
I'll start for the state, Your Honor, and then I'll.
All right.
Again, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
I object again due to the fact that the Henderson County Police attacked my wife and myself. And
All right. Did you
handcuffed her on
right.
her property, and she had done
right.
nothing wrong.
All right, hold on just a minute. Did you understand me to say I need you to hold those statements until the end of the hearing?
Pardon me, Your Honor.
That's all right. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bragg.
I just was saying that I will begin, and then I will throw it to Ms. Tanner for a few other points. I know that for myself and for Ms. Tanner, we're also both very busy, but particularly for the state, our expert is also extremely busy. Ms. Tanner's going to speak a little bit more to that because she's been the one in contact with our expert. But in terms of being able to get her report done in a timely fashion and making sure that it is fully answers the question that is going to be pertinent to what this court has to decide, I think that's probably the state's main concern. But in terms of my schedule, and I'll let Ms. Tanner talk about her schedule as well. I've had some dates come up as well, and most notably, I've got a Fifth Circuit argument now set for June 8th. That, of course, can't be moved. And then I'm also preparing a direct appeal brief. It is a very lengthy brief that I'm having to answer, 261 pages, 143 issues that I'm also having to write while also preparing for this hearing. And then I will to be fair, although I want to make clear here, I was also currently, up until yesterday, I was preparing for a state habeas hearing as well in Falk, ex parte Falk, that's out of Walker County, that was going to go in June. However, that's just now been continued due to other proceedings there that we had to take up to the CCA there. So that's it for my schedule. I'll let Ms. Tanner speak to her schedule, and then also about our expert.
Ms. Tanner.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's not as much an issue of my schedule personally, as we have run into some serious logistic problems with regard to our expert. We hired Dr. McGarrahan very, very shortly after the November hearing. There were a number of orders, as I'm sure the court is aware, that came through regarding the parameters of her testing, the sharing of data between her and the defense's expert. And we couldn't get her scheduled to go into TDC till those were all done, because understandably, the defense could not agree to any testing until all the orders were in place. And there was one order in particular that this court signed on February 22nd. And I am in no way casting aspersions on anyone, but for reasons, there was some kind of a snafu, and I'm not in a place to actually opine on what it was, but there was a snafu, and ultimately The state didn't receive the court's order until March 24th. So over a month after it was signed. And then unbeknownst to us, the defense didn't get it until the 29th of March. And so we couldn't proceed with getting her scheduled until that was all done. We did, as soon as that happened, we did get her into TDC, and she did the examination on April 11th and April 12th of this year. But I've been in contact with her since then. And as the court knows, we have a scheduling deadline that her report has to be completed on all of her data shared by June 1st of this year. And she is struggling mightily to meet that deadline. She is watching this hearing, not literally watching it, but she is awaiting the result of this hearing because she has expressed to me that she's not certain how she's going to be able to get it all done, because she has shared that the testing is somewhat complex and it is not your run-of-the-mill report that for her to write. And so that is another issue. So when the defense expressed their concerns, we also have those concerns, and that was in large part why we had no objection and actually are in agreement with their motion for continuance. But that is, from my perspective, working with Dr. McGarrahan, that is the primary concern I have about the July date. So Travis, Mr. Bragg, do you have anything else?
You're on mute.
Travis, you're on mute.
Not right now. Depending on if there are any of the court's concerns, I'd be more than happy to address those. I know myself, Ms. Brandon, very experienced in state habeas matters, and so we can certainly address any of the court's concerns with regards to pushing this down the road just a little bit.
Well, you say a little bit, Mr. Bragg. What are you talking about a little bit?
We haven't had conversations yet to nail down a particular date. We certainly would be wanting to work with the court coordinator on that. But as far as the state's concerned, I think we're anticipating really just a few months, something to create a little bit of space in between some current deadlines. I don't think we're contemplating anything that would be a massive offset. Certainly nothing that would get in the way of this court's other proceedings, or anything that might, get the CCA kind of concerned about the progress that this case is making. This case is progressing along perfectly fine. I don't think that there's anything that the CCA would be concerned with, again, in getting an offset of, a few months. So I think that that's what we're talking about. That's the timeline that we're talking about, not anything drastic.
Well, I disagree with almost everything you said, Mr. Bragg. I think several months is drastic. Excuse me. The Court of Criminal Appeals sent this case back May 7th of 2020. That's 2 years ago. Another few months is drastic. That's a drastic move. And I'll let you know when I'm finished, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
And when I first read the court's order, I was very surprised because there was no deadline. And it's the first order like that I ever got that did from the Court of Criminal Appeals that didn't have a deadline. And I didn't know if that was about me or them, because it didn't come to me. I thought maybe they only give me deadlines because I need a deadline. And as it turns out, no, because the deadlines are statutory. And we're so far, you all are so familiar with the state 11071 proceeding that, when a subsequent writ gets put back with an order like this, it's back to 11071, 6, 7, 8, 9, however, whatever the sections are, that schedule. So we are so far behind. I could not ask for an extension if I wanted one. So I'm so far off calendar that there is no way to get an extension from the Court of Criminal Appeals. That's what the Court of Criminal Appeals thinks about where we are right now in this case.
Your Honor, on behalf of my wife, I think they need to dismiss this case.
Actually, it's your case.
The harm
It's
done
your case.
to my wife.
All right, well, let me take your statements up at the very end of the hearing. The other concerns I have are that there are 2 dates, 2 weeks this year that we could take up this case. One is in August and one is in December. And that's it. If I set it for those 2 dates, I have no guarantee that we won't get another 11071 that Ms. Brandon gets put on and ask for another 90-day extension that's to the exact day that we're having this hearing. I mean, Ms. Brandon asked for an extension in the Mosley case to this date, to July 18th, the date that was already set for this case. That's what she just said. That's what I understood her to say. I may have been incorrect. I have no guarantee she won't get another 11071 assigned to her that needs the same sort of attention without extensions that the Mosley case needs. Ms. Brandon herself said in her motion that it is unpredictable and she doesn't know when she'll be assigned to one of these. I know that there's more than one lawyer at the Office of Capital and Forensic Writs. I don't know why Ms. Brandon is assigned to a case that she asked for an extension to the date that this was already set. And finally, in your motion, you mentioned you couldn't do things because of COVID. You might think, well, in the fall and winter of 2020, we had COVID all over us. In the fall and winter of 2021, we had COVID all over us. You can read articles every day about we may have COVID all over us again this winter and still not be able to have these hearings. So right now, there is not a lot of danger of COVID, apparently. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even an expert on COVID. I'm not even a person who reads articles about COVID, really. But I do notice people don't seem to be in the hospital as much and things like that. So, and then finally, most courts are experiencing, and you all may know this, I don't know how much you appear in court, but the courts, particularly in East Texas, it seems, are very tight on scheduling. And it's because people weren't able to have trials during COVID, during 2020 and some of 2021. They were unable to have trials. And so now we're having to have trials. It's hard to get a courtroom. It is hard to get a court reporter. Thankful to have the court reporter today. Thank you for being here. So anyway, those are my concerns. Mr. Bragg, you were trying to say something. What was it you wanted to say?
Oh, well, I think Your Honor addressed it. I just, when we were, when you said that you thought a few months was extreme, I was curious as to what you meant by a few months, but you gave us the dates. I would say that I think that in my experience with, state habeas, especially subsequent state habeas proceedings and intellectual disability proceedings, given the fact that, I know the CCA sent this down 2 years ago, but given the fact that we were in the throes of COVID at that time, this case has been moving along at a very reasonable pace. I'm not yet too disturbed by it, but that's just me. That's just my 2 cents. So, in terms of even if the court was willing to talk about the August date, I think that was something that the parties would be willing to talk about as well. Although I certainly understand the concerns that Your Honor's just laid out.
Anybody else?
Your Honor.
I do think that, Your Honor, a little extension would allow us to have our expert be able to do a full report without, she basically has told me to meet this deadline of June 1st with as late as she was able to get in to see him, that she's going to have to just kind of throw it together to get it done. And that concerns me a great deal for, a multitude of reasons. And so even just a little bit of extra time, I know would help her exponentially. She is frantically watching, awaiting a word on this hearing just because of that concern. So from my standpoint, I think there's, lots of different standpoints here, but from my standpoint, that's the primary thing.
Ms. Brandon, anything else from the applicant?
I guess I'll just, just to address a couple things. I do want to assure the court that, we did not seek an extension in Mr. Mosley's case to thwart the deadline that this was set in this case. We seek deadlines when we think that we need the time to fulfill our duties and obligation. And I agree that since this was set, that field investigation for our office has been possible, and we have done it. I personally have been on the road almost every single week, or 2 weeks out of every month since this has been set, to fulfill some of the backlog. But to Mr. Bragg's point, for the first year that this was set, we had zero access to our clients at TDCJ. Field investigation was not possible. But as soon as it was safe, restrictions were lifted. We've been out on the road since 2021 and trying to fulfill that backlog. But, so we are doing it. We are going out there. We are on the road. I'm on the road right now. We're doing it constantly. But the reality is that there was a year that we did lose, and that impacted us. We're trying our best to make up for it, but that is the reality, that we lost that time. So I just wanted to assure the court of that we are on the road. COVID impacted us for over a year, but we did not have access in person to any of our clients during that entire time, but that we are trying our best. All of these cases woke up at once, and we've been trying our best to deal with it. And I am not on any other pre-filing cases. I know what our other pre-filing cases are in the office. I'm not on them. I know when those deadlines are not set before the end of the year on any cases that I'm on. So I can assure the court that at this juncture, I am not assigned to any cases, and I wouldn't put myself on a case that had a deadline before the end of the year that I knew about for an 11071. It is not my intention to play games with the deadlines, but we had a lot of cases wake up at once, trying our best to juggle them. And I am not on any other cases right now that is set to file by the end of the year. So we are just asking for a little bit of time to be able to fulfill our duty to both of my clients as best as I can, and give them the hearing that they deserve, that this put on the evidence that this court deserves to hear, the best form of evidence that this court deserves to hear, and a little bit of time will help with that. So you're able to make the best decision. And so this will give the state the time that they need as well.
Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I hope you have your calendars with you, because we're picking a date today. The two possible dates are August 29th through September 2nd and December 12th through December 16th. And I'll let you check your calendars, and I'll just wait. I don't mind waiting. And I do want to say, you need to do everything you can to avoid some kind of conflict with these dates. Whichever date it gets put on, I really don't even want to hear another motion for continuance. If you have to file one, please file one. That's the way things go. But
Hang on,
we'll get back to you. We're going to get you just
I'll see this.
It's almost time. Almost time. Thank you. So anyway, I really don't anticipate moving it past whichever date we pick. I am concerned about the expert not having had enough time because of the delay in receiving the order. I don't know what that was about, and wouldn't even hazard a guess. So anyway, but those are the dates. And I know different counties have had different rules regarding proceedings when there's been a COVID outbreak or whatever. But this case is going to be heard in Henderson County. And unless there is an order in Henderson County prohibiting the proceeding on that date, we will have that order. And it doesn't matter what is going on in another county. Clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Any availability? If not, we'll just have to leave it in July.
We are texting frantically back and forth amongst the three of us in the state.
All right.
For the state right now.
I would say we can get off and take a break, but I really don't want to do that because my Wi-Fi has been so problematic this week that I have a rabbit's foot and have my fingers crossed and everything. So I don't want to try to make a different connection.
Is it possible to do, I've been able to do like a breakout room. So
Sure.
Oh,
Let me put council in a breakout room,
thank you.
and it's been a while since I've done this. So if I delete you, just rejoin. I'll let you back in.
Your Honor, I think actually, before we even get to that, from our standpoint, we've been going back and forth, and either of those dates work for the state. And the one thing I would mention is, I think perhaps since this is a non-jury matter, it might make a lot of sense to do it in December, just because as most of our other courts are pretty well shut down by that point in time. And so I think that would minimize the possibility of any other cases trying to horn in, understanding that they can't, but that might make it easier for that not to happen just because of the date. And if it were a jury, I'd be thinking, oh gosh, not December 12th, but since it's not a jury case, that makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense for that reason. I agree with you. And please be conferring with your experts who I know are waiting to hear, because their non-availability on that date is not going to be acceptable, because we're talking to them right now about it. Hang on, and I'll put you in a break room.
Okay, thank you. And I'll do that right now.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just a minute, please. You should get an invitation to the room.
I want to thank all of you.
Okay, everybody's gone. Mr. Bragg, Mr. Mays, I'm gonna mute everyone, and then we'll come back when everybody's back. My green screen right there. All right, I'm counting heads. I think everyone's back. Ms. Brandon, this was your motion, although actually agreed. Did you all have time to discuss a date and contact your expert?
Yes, we did.
I
Yes,
can't hear you.
can anyone else hear me?
I hear you.
Now I've got you. Now I've got you.
Okay. No worries. Yes, the breakout room proved very successful, and we were all able to look at our calendars and all get a hold of our experts. And we are all available, experts as well, the week of December 12th through 16th.
Ms. Tanner, the state can also be ready that day.
You're muted.
Unmute, Lisa.
There we go. Yes, Your Honor. I was unable to actually get a hold of Dr. McGarrahan, but I did go back and look at an email exchange that we had where she had set out a while back all of her available open weeks, and December 12th is an open week. So, and August 29th was not. So we are in agreement, and I have left her a voicemail and I don't anticipate any problems.
Sorry, I should have made that more clear. We weren't able to get Dr. McGarrahan on the phone right then, but Lisa was able to check the schedule. Sorry.
Okay. Well, then let's do this. I'm not moving the hearing until we have heard 100% sure that Dr. McGarrahan is available.
Okay.
So everybody keeps the July date on their calendar until Ms. Tanner notifies the coordinator with copies, of course, to everyone else that you have spoken with almost certainly Dr. McGarrahan,
Mhm.
and she is available that week to testify. Does everyone
Yes, Your Honor.
understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the sooner I hear of that, then of course, the sooner I will sign an order pushing this to December 12th. But if we can't move it to December 12th, you've already said the August date is not available. So we'll just have to fall back on the July date because those are the only dates. There's not another date. So anyway, okay. Anything else then from the applicant's counsel?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else from state's counsel?
No, Your Honor.
No,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
I'm sorry. Did you have something, Ms. Palmer?
No, Your Honor.
All right, your screen lit up for me. That's why I thought you said something. Mr. Mays, I know you had something you want to say. What was it you wanted to say?
I just believe this is harassment for me, my wife, my family, and there's been irreparable harm done because of the intrusion and the violence that was taken against my wife and myself that day. May 17, 2007. And I think the court should dismiss these cases.
At this stage, I don't have the authority to dismiss this. Okay. This is with the Court of Criminal Appeals. I'm assigned to conduct an evidentiary hearing on certain issues. And what the Court of Criminal Appeals does with it, that's their business. All right. If there's nothing further from anyone else, I'm going to terminate the YouTube recording and terminate the hearing. Again, thank you so much, court reporter. Every time I see a court reporter now, I'm happy because I don't see them enough because it's so hard to find one. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a nice weekend, and I'll get you an order as soon as we hear from the state's expert.
Thank
Thank
you, Your
you.
Honor.
Thank
Your
you.
Honor,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you.